This is Small Business Conversations with Akona Machoba, unlocking essential advice, opinions, and key issues that affect South Africa's small business community.
Welcome to the latest edition of the Small Business Conversations podcast, Moneyweb's weekly SME show highlighting critical issues affecting South Africa's small business environment. Now, it is no secret that the entrepreneurship journey can be unpredictable. One day business is good and the next it is not. That in some ways is the name of the game for many business owners. The last couple of years have proven this significantly, with small businesses suffering several headwinds, some of which we have covered extensively from different angles here on the podcast. More recently, though, businesses are feeling the pinch of load shedding and high interest rates, while on the other hand, the consumer is feeling the pinch and are reluctant to spend because it just costs too much to reach into their pockets, ultimately impacting the business's profits, a volatile cycle in many ways. In our personal lives, however, we know that downsizing is an option when we feel financially overstretched. It's not always easy to go this route, but sometimes it's the most sensible option. However, in the business sense, how would this same concept apply? What's the best way to approach it? And to answer that question, I am joined by Palesa Mabasa, the head of business development at FNB Bank's SME funding division. And she knows much more about the topic and the critical considerations to take into account when downscaling your small business. Welcome to the show, Palesa, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Akona. Thanks for having me.
Great. Palesa, first things first, I think it's critical to just define these concepts before we start and delve into the conversation. Can you just define for us what is downsizing in the context of a small business, and how do business owners know that it's time to go down this route?
Yes, so it's a very good question, Akona. So, with regards to downsizing, it is, I don't want to call it lightweight, but it's basically, it is a process where the owner thinks to themselves, my business it's too costly to run it at the way I'm running it, and there'll be a few decisions that they'll have to make or consider before downsizing. So basically, do I need the premises that I currently have in terms of where my business is running? Should I have a warehouse, or could I have half the space to do the same job? Would I be able to then, if I were to get into a smaller building, increase my profit margins? So downsizing is really the function of a business owner understanding what their costs are, where they're making money in terms of whether it's services or selling of goods, and how to try increase the profit margins for that business. So it is quite a detailed kind of like observation and an honest reflection of the business before an owner can actually decide what they're going to do when they're going to downsize.
So essentially this process is one where people are finding their businesses in trouble. And if I'm thinking about maybe the steps before maybe closing one's doors down, there's okay, I'm in trouble. Then your downsizing decision comes before the business rescue aspect and liquidation aspect. Is that correct? Is that how it would kind of fall into that process before we get to the doom and gloom of it all?
Yes and no. And the reason why I'm saying no is because sometimes downsizing is needed for a business to grow better in the future. So it's not always the fact that the business is in distress or, it is in a situation where it's not profitable. Downsizing at times can be, I am growing too quickly. And because I'm growing too quickly, I might have costs that start running away with me. Let me slow down. Let me not go at the same pace and, try to get a handle of things, because we do see some businesses that grow quite quickly, and then they get to a point where, let's say, they've got numerous retail stores, which honestly are not always needed. You could do the type of trading via an e-commerce website, and then obviously have more of a delivery type service where you are able to deliver your goods. And when it comes to business rescue, the main difference is that business rescue is when the business is in trouble, especially with regards to creditors, and they enter into a business rescue process to basically preserve the assets of the business. Because once you've got creditors, and then liquidation is obviously when there's nothing that can be done to make the business financially stable again. And then that's when our assets are then sold to be able to pay creditors and to meet the obligations of the business.
Well, that's interesting that it can be used for both scenarios. I'm interested then the success rate in both those scenarios where I'm spiraling out of control in terms of growth, but I need to refocus and my strategy and my growth strategy to kind of align with the identity of the business. And also I'm maybe suffering with challenges and I need to refocus again to kind of pursue growth outside of that trouble. What does the success rate look like for businesses that do enter this process?
So, I mean, if you go, for example, business rescue, we see that a lot of businesses who the owners are, open-minded and are open to what the business rescue practitioner is suggesting, those businesses usually actually are able to turn around and, start becoming profitable again. And, those financial pressures then are alleviated. Where, for example, those businesses that are not, and the owners are not necessarily receptive of any of that advice, those businesses then usually will go into a liquidation process. So it's quite to say from a percentage aspect, but it's more of the willingness of the owners or the entrepreneurs of the business to engage authentically and honestly and actually take away the emotion of the business or being the business owner and actually just looking at the objective facts of how the business is performing and what it is that can be done to help increase the performance of the business.
So then is it okay to suggest that for downsizing and downscaling, it might have better chances of succeeding because it's coming from the business owner and they're the ones that most likely are seeing that it's time to probably downsize to achieve certain goals. And because it's coming from them, there's more appetite to participate and do the right thing.
No, 100%. And I think that's when downsizing is actually very much a very honest reflection of how the business is performing and the owner opting in to say, you know what, to actually preserve this business and prevent a business rescue situation and prevent a possible liquidation down the line. Let me pull the brakes. And pulling the brakes, like I said before, is just to be able to be like, just to take stock of what is there. How am I running things in the business? Am I focusing? Let's say you're running, you've got a manufacturing business. Is the business geared to produce the most profitable good, or is my product base is it too wide? And actually, I am not aware which products are giving me the best profit. So it's things like that where the business owner is, and you're right, they need to be very willing to opt into that process, and because it is one that is initiated by them, the probability of success is actually quite high. And then, depending on what period of time they've decided to downscale, and they're usually able to then actually expand in a manner that is more profitable. And expanding doesn't necessarily mean bigger premises or a bigger fleet of cars, but there's ways to operate now in this day and age in technology where actually your business is growing, and you are, operating at your overheads are less than what you actually would have had if you had continued in a way that was different previously.
Now, Palisa, let's get into the important parts here. What are some of the key factors businesses need to take into account before going ahead with the downsizing process? What is the negotiables and non-negotiables? Where can they afford to cut back and where should they just stay away from?
So the non-negotiables are the quality and standard of service, right? And who is going to be able to assist you in delivering on that from a staff complement perspective. So if you have to, for example, now have to let go of staff, you're going to have to obviously make sure that it is you do that in the most legal and ethical and respectful manner that you can do that. We've all heard horror stories of how people have been let go from jobs. So as a business owner, I like to say put the Ubuntu bank into it. You're dealing with human beings. These are employees who've got responsibilities. Explain to them why, they are being let go. And that's also quite easy if you've got a legal employment contract that explains what your expectations are of that individual with regards to how their job is supposed to be done. What their objectives, scorecard, KPIs are, and how you're going to measure them against what your expectations are. And once you have that in place, it's easy then to see who out of your staff should be going and who should be staying, because you'll be able to see who's performing and who's not performing. That being said, it's very, very important then, once you've decided you're going to let people go, and you decide, okay, fine, I still need something else being done, but the people, my staff complement can't actually help me with this, is potentially then to outsource certain things to somebody else who's reputable. And because they're not on your payroll full time, it could be cheaper for you to be able to get their services on a needs be basis.
And also, we know that the company spend quite a bit on their staff, so cutting back there would kind of free up some cash for maybe a business that is struggling. But what other assets then could companies consider letting go of it to help with this process and to help achieve their goal?
So there could be quite a few things. So you could let go of vehicles. If, for example, now you don't necessarily need to have a big fleet of vehicles for the business. Maybe you can survive with one or two, depending on the type of products that you are manufacturing or producing. You could then decide that you could let go of equipment that obviously produces or manufactures certain products instead of your high-end products, or the ones that generate higher profits for yourself. And then you could let go of that, or you could actually lease it to somebody else, and then earn revenue in terms of you don't now have the cost of the raw materials that you are using for that machine, and that is now you're earning now a rental income because you're leasing it out. So they're different ways in terms of how you could do it. It just depends on the business, and obviously a very deep understanding on the cost of the business and where the profits are being made.
Would you say then, Palesa, it's advisable to maybe let go of some services that a business was probably offering that maybe aren't generating as much profits for that particular business?
100%. So any goods or services that are not profitable, then I think you should let go of. If you're downscaling, because you must also consider the time and the effort, and we like to talk about a return on effort. So that return on your effort and your time, is it worth it if you're going to be giving these goods and services and it's not yielding you the same type of return?
So that's all good and well, but I imagine there's also a downside to this process. I mean, if you are letting go of certain employees, you risk losing morale in your team, or maybe getting some other employees nervous and they start maybe looking for better opportunities because they think, well, maybe I'm next, and they try to jump ship. How does a business owner ensure continuity while in this downscaling phase and essentially avoid stagnation, firstly, in a business, or falling into a downward spiral that might just lead straight to liquidation? Or how do they create an environment suitable for growth post taking the downscaling steps?
I mean, the best leaders are actually the ones that are transparent. So I think the best way to not only settle employees and for morale is to be very transparent with your staff. So when you are going to go through a process of letting people go, sit everybody down and you give them, I don't want to say the same speech, but you basically give them the same information at the same time. So nobody should be hearing something in the corridors, because that is now when morale starts now being eaten away, because there's uncertainty in terms of how things are going to be done. So the more transparent the business owner is, the better it is, not only for the staff, but also for just the consistency of not only morale, culture, but performance of the business going forward.
Well, there you have it. That is Palesa Mabasa of FNB Bank's SME Funding Division, dissecting the concept of downscaling your business and really sharing the key considerations that SME owners will need to take into account when going down this path. Thank you so much for your time, Palesa, and thank you for joining me on the pod.
Thank you so much, Akona. That was a really great conversation.
It definitely was. If you enjoyed this podcast, please like and follow Small Business Conversations, and don't forget to share our episodes. If you want to contribute to the conversation, you can tweet me at machoba_a, or you can email us at smepodcast@moneyweb.co.za to share your thoughts and suggestions for future conversations. Until next time, thank you and goodbye. You've been listening to Small Business Conversations with Akona Machoba. To
To listen to more Moneyweb podcasts, go to moneyweb.co.za, the Moneyweb app, or your favorite podcast platforms. Moneyweb, your trusted source for business and investment insights.